Hey everybody, welcome to the Growing with Fishes podcast. I'm Steve,
And I'm Marty.
and we do this podcast every week. In the middle of an earthquake there. No, I'm just kidding. We do this podcast every week, or we attempt to, and mainly talk about cannabis and aquaponic growing. Sometimes a little bit more one or the other. Um, but yeah, so Marty, what have you been up to this week in your garden?
Well, just kind of working on the indoor a little bit. I put up some insulation on the walls and got that done, and that worked out pretty well. They didn't have the soundboard stuff I liked, but they had just the regular styrofoam insulation, so I grabbed that instead. And let's see. Oh, I sent Steve. I think I sent you the pictures of it. I found some eggs in the catfish tank that were stuck in the pump, and there was a couple other sacks that I found in there also. So I fished those out and put them in a separate tank and see if they hatch. It's pretty random though. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, other than that, it's just been kind of cruise control, doing little stuff now. Most of the big setup has been done. All the soil plans are in the ground. All the aquaponic plants are, through the dual root zone and down into the water. So yeah, it's been a pretty lax week for me. Just getting little stuff done. How about you?
Not much. Just working on some projects. We're Yeah, well, I guess I'll wait and see if everything works out. Tate, our guest, will be here in a little bit. He's had a problem with one of his, I think his wife's vehicle or something. He had to go pick her up or something like that. So he's running a little late, but he'll be with us shortly. But yeah, I've been just getting some stuff ready. We're going to be doing a really cool project, hopefully out here soon in Humboldt. And just kind of been working on getting some of the details together for that. Working on some other stuff here in Colorado, and just kind of catching up with being back in Colorado for a couple of weeks before I jet off to the next place, which is man, it's just nice to be in one spot for a little while, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Are you off to Canada next?
No, next will be Humboldt, and then um, either Colorado back to Colorado for a short bit, and then uh, back to Jamaica shortly thereafter. At least that's the way it looks right now. So
Cool. How
yeah,
are things at the other grow in Canada? Have they
I don't know. I haven't really heard from them much in the last couple of weeks. So I
not much happening?
yeah, I'm not sure. So just I've had so many other things in front of me. If they're not, if someone's not reaching out at the time, I'm not always on top of it. So I apologize for that one. But yeah, as far as I know, they're doing well.
Right on. I mean, you kind of gave them the marching orders, right? So no news is good news in some cases.
Yeah, well, gave them a bunch of useful information and did a bunch of good work with them. So
Good. How is your licensing progressing? Anything happening there?
in Jamaica,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. There's somebody there down there that's kind of just handling all of that for me. So usually I just get a headache when I read it. It's not because we're having problems. It's just it's a nightmare in its current state. So I just don't. I don't know. I've only been back like a week or so, so I'm still trying to get everything else in order. So, but I haven't heard anything negative or anything like that.
Cool.
So I know there was just a big article in Jamaica Observer about it. So about like legalization coming and everything. So store end anyway. So that's been really cool. Um, Did you have any questions or anything this past week or two, or did you want to tell us anything more? I know you were gone for 2 weeks. Did you have any other more things, other topics, or anything you wanted to bring up from before?
The only question that I had recently was on one of them about we had mentioned a couple of different soil kits, and one of them had um, what was it? Neem, I think neem cake in it, and was asking about, that it is obviously toxic to fish at, moderate levels even. So, just talked about how to apply that if you want to apply it, either as a foliar spray or just in the dual root zone, so it doesn't get into the system.
Yeah.
So that was pretty much the only question that I think they had about that. I'll look here. There might have been one other issue with that one. Oh, that was that it included some stuff to be able to supplement nitrogen. And while obviously, you're not generally going to have to do that, it's not necessarily bad to have around. So it's just a good place to start, just sort of a place to look at. I think it was the build a soil one that they were looking at that I think I talked about at one point. So at any rate, so you can use neem cake or neem oil. Just try to keep it out of the water. It's not great for fish. So either do a light spray or just apply it through a top dress in your dual root zone and water it in, would be my suggestion. Or there's other options besides that as well.
We had some other questions. So there's ones I'm prepping to start an aquaponics grow and had some questions on a setup. For fish, how many would you suggest? I'm looking to do four by four grow beds with 4 to 5 plants each and a 500-gallon fish tank. So for that many plants, you could do, easily 35 or 40 fish, and shouldn't have too much of a problem. I wouldn't go much beyond that because, cannabis plants feed very, very heavily. But you want to make sure that, you're able to, cut back their feeding and switch to a much more vegetable dominant, veggie heavy, more romaine lettuce and, leaf scraps from the garden and things like that for the second half of flower, in place of their pellets and things like that. It really helps boost the phosphorus as well as reduce nitrogen output. It will still produce some nitrogen, but it does help reduce some, by a noticeable amount. Do you have any suggestions on that, Marty?
No, I think that probably about sums it up. I mean, yeah, obviously you want less nitrogen when you're in flower. I guess ideally, you want to shoot for about half as much as when you're in veg. So, pretty much any way that you can adjust that works. You can, if you want to have more fish, you can do like companion planting and plant things like greens and stuff like that, which is what I do, to be able to absorb a lot of that nitrogen that's still being produced and allow your system to be a little bit more diverse, and and I think a way to help balance it out. So that's what, if you do want to do more fish than that, or I would say, just in general, I would recommend companion planting. But that's one thing that you can do if you want, is you can always just add more plants that you can eat or you can use for pest control, or bait plants like peppermint or rosemary, oregano. Pretty much any of those things are fine to grow and use in your pest management. Lemongrass, any of that stuff.
So I had someone had a question about kapow, if it was safe to use in veg or flower. Kapow is really, really, really great for veg, for mites or other insects. It's a general insect, for thrips and a whole bunch of other insects. But it's not good for flower. It will burn your flowers and can make your flowers smaller. So just keep that in mind. But it is
Yeah,
about,
especially if you're going to do extracts.
yeah,
Anything that is oil based will absorb into into a bud once you're, I would say like 4 weeks or so. You're going to start having absorption into the flower, and so I wouldn't recommend anything that is an oil-based product. They're great for killing bugs, but especially if you're going to do extracts, you'll give it to your extractor, you'll run it through, and you'll end up with product, and then you'll end up with how much of your oil got absorbed in there also, and pretty much for the most part ruin it. So I would not recommend anything oil-based in flour. I mean, there's a few options that you can use. I know like Big Time Exterminator is really popular in the PFA group, and they say that you can use that up to like 3 days before flour because it's just enzyme and water, so there's no oil based. H2O2 is obviously one of the things that you can spray because it's going to evaporate as opposed to absorb. But you do create sort of a microbial vacuum when you do that on your plant. So I would recommend following that up with like a worm tea or something like that as a foliar spray, so that you don't have a vacuum for things like powdery mold to start growing in.
Yeah, or even silica foliar sprays are really good as well
Yeah,
for getting that barrier back up.
right. Well, I'm not on the YouTube thing. I should. I can't see chat. I got it.
Okay. What else do we have here? So, you plan on using your dual root zone pots. Do you recommend using a chop design? Chop's okay. Chop 2 is a little bit better, where you're going from everything back to the sump. So your main pump goes up to your feed line from the sump tank up to your grow beds as well as your fish tank all at once, and then they all circulate. Their returns are all returning back to the fish tank or to the sump. I'm sorry. That really is the best way to go, at least in my experience. Now, you get into the commercial scale, it changes up a little bit, but for a smaller system or a home system or something, that's about all you really need. Do you have any suggestions for lights specifically with aquaponics? Are there any concerns with heat or light cycle for the fish? So for lights, do you have anything comments on the chop design before I move on to
Not
this?
really. I don't have a problem with it. I mean, obviously, um, people use it all the time. Pretty much, I'm in favor of anything that grows plants and that's been proven to grow plants. So whether or not it's like more or less stressful for the fish, I'm not even sure how you measure that. I'm sure there is a way, but for me, I I have no issue with it. I think for, like you're saying, for smaller systems, a lot of times they just end up making the most sense. And so I have a number of different systems here. Obviously, I have, I think, 3 functioning right now, but I think I've probably built like a dozen of them. And so I think that I'm a big advocate of using what you have available to you to make something that works. So I think if a chop system makes sense for you and that's what you understand and that's what you feel like you can run, then more power to you. What was the next question? I forgot. Steve, are you there?
What's that? Sorry about that. Oh,
What was the next
sorry
question?
about
I
that.
forgot.
Something came up on my. So the next question was, do you have any suggestions for light specifically with aquaponics? Are there any concerns for heat and light cycle for the fish? So specifically for aquaponics, it's funny you say that. So it really depends. Actually, this is a great topic we can get into for lighting and aquaponics. So it depends on what you're looking to do and what you're looking to grow, what you want to invest, and how much you want to invest over time, and what kind of power bill you want. So your entry level lights are your fluorescents. or your compact fluorescents. And those are really good, cheap lights. They work really well. They're real good entry level lights. But they do need to be replaced every 8 months or so as far as bulbs, every 8 to 10 months. Otherwise, you're going to get a lot of light degradation. Your next step up is going to be your metal halide and ceramic, or metal halide and high pressure sodium. Um, and then now they both have ceramic versions, which are much higher light output. They run much cooler and they use lower wattage. So if you are looking into those, highly suggest going to a ceramic metal halide or ceramic high pressure sodium. The ceramic high pressure sodiums, I've had a chance to see a couple, but they won't be on the market until next month, which is only like a week or two away. But yeah, they're pretty neat. There's a few testers floating around I've seen. So they're really, really, really cool. But they also run much colder. And then you have induction lighting. Induction lighting is kind of like a magnetically stabilized fluorescent, or it's like a type of fluorescent that's magnetically stabilized. And they provide 25-year bulb life compared to the 1 year bulb life ish with the metal halides. I don't actually know the bulb life of the ceramic metal halides. I don't have one at the moment, but if anyone happens to know and wants to chime in, definitely let me know. Or if you happen to know, let me know. But I do know that most of the inductions are 25-year bulb life. You do need to supplement the far red for those. Or it definitely benefits from supplementing far red with the inductions. But they're very easy to add. Now, some of the other bulbs and some of the newer induction bulbs compensate for that, but it's just something I haven't had a chance to play a ton with. And then you also have your plasmas. Now, plasmas are really, really nice because they put out a really broad spectrum if you're looking to do flowering room. Plasmas are really good for flower, but just remember most of them put out UVC, which is not good for your eyes, and it can also give you sunburn. So make sure you cover your skin, wear some sunscreen, and some sunglasses, or grow glasses when you're in your garden when you're running one of those lights. And then you also have LED, which have a real cool or real long running, replacement time, 10, 20, 30 years, depending on the fixture. But you do need to worry about, they are a little bit more pricey. The light spectrum isn't quite as perfect as some of the others. Well, some of the newer ones are pretty good, but a lot of them aren't very good, especially the Chinese ones. There's a lot of cheap Chinese ones out there that just um, don't cut it, but they sell them as really good, and it's easy to get ripped off. So definitely with the LEDs, you will get what you pay for. So make sure you get with a reputable company or one that's got a bunch of side by sides and things like that. My personal favorite right now is the ceramic metal halides. Or the inductions are really nice if you're looking for like a veg room that you want to run you know a little bit cooler. Both of them run much cooler than the other options. So the nice thing about, again, the induction is the long bulb replacement time. Any concerns for heat or light cycle with the fish? So heat for the fish, it's very important. Before I get to that, Marty, what are your opinion on lighting?
Yeah, I think that, for the most part, you just have to weigh the pros and cons of your environment. So, like for instance, I have both metal halide lights and I have LEDs. And I run the LEDs in the summertime when I want it to be cooler in the room, and in the wintertime I want it to be warmer. I actually use the metal halides as more like heaters than anything else. So it just works out that way so that I don't have to run the heater as often or the air conditioner as often, depending on what time of year it is. So I try to make sure that I can be able to swap those out. So, and I think there's definitely a lot of evidence that shows that mixing different ones, like I know a lot of people that mix metal halide with high pressure sodium inside of the same room to get an overlap of spectrum. and I've had multiple people report to me that their yields are bigger when doing that. So a
Yep.
lot of times they would go for like a 3-to-1 ratio where you have 3 HPS and 1 metal halide, um, basically in an area, and be able to produce really well with that, better than just all HPS. So that was the comparison that they did, and it was a whole group of them. That ended up, sort of one talks the other one into doing it once they see the other one doing it. So there's probably at least 4 of them now that have reproduced those results. So there's a couple of them that have posted videos. So I think I'll dig those up and send them over. Maybe I'll post them on the um, description of the video. So that'd be the only thing that I would add to what you had to say. For the most part, I feel like it's just a matter of what you want to do. Metal halides are, or HPS. Maybe the exception, like you were saying, of the CMH. Those are definitely going to run a lot cooler in comparison to the other ones. And light efficiency can become a complicated topic to debate, but for the most part, it's how much light is produced as opposed to heat in whatever light you're using. So the more heat that you put out per watt, the less light you're going to put out per watt. So I would say for me, I don't really have a preference like LED versus the metal halides, or it's kind of whatever works best at the time for me. I have good success with both of them. And I even have cheap eBay lights from China. And I think if you just do a little bit of research and understand what they are, and know that max power ratings on LEDs are 90% bullshit, and basically they never consume that much power. So it's usually about half. So like my 600-watt LED lights only consume 284 watts. So that right there is an incredibly misleading thing. And a lot of times that when I see people that have or that are unhappy with their LED lights, a lot of times they're underpowering them simply because they're calculating their watts per square footage based on the max power ratings as opposed to the actual power draw, and then trying to compare that to an HPS light, like a 600-watt HPS, which is a single bulb with no connection, and or no additional connections. Like LEDs are 100 little bulbs wired together as opposed to one bulb, and so it can be a little bit complicated to compare some of them. But I think for the most part, if you understand that the variables are how much heat is created in your room, that you're then therefore also going to have to account for. So while HPS might produce great results, you're also going to have an increased load on your air conditioner. So that's my 2 cents, I suppose. Whatever works out best for whatever room you have. If it's really hot in there, then you might have to invest in a really good air conditioner if you want to run 5 HPSs in there. It's gonna be a lot hotter than you think if you haven't done it before.
Yep. You're gonna definitely need to vent that room. That's for sure. What was the next one? Uh, okay. Are there any concerns with heat or light cycle for the fish? So there isn't really any with the light cycle, but definitely heat. You never want to have temperature fluctuation with your fish. It's the quickest way to get them sick and kill them. So definitely, watch that. It's not something you want. pH fluctuation and temperature fluctuation are the two biggest causes of fish issues in all of aquaponics. So definitely want to avoid those. Um, Final question. For grow this size, it will be in a garage sealed around windows and doors. Do you suggest any other tent style seal? No, you don't really need to do a grow, put it in a tent. There's no real reason to. You could just put it all out, maybe definitely build in some kind of ventilation or something in that window you got. and make sure no one can break in. But aside from that, throw an air filter on there so you're not stinking it up in the neighborhood. You don't get a neighbor complaining on you, and then let her rip.
Well, if you might need to cover the window if you're going to try and flower,
Oh yes.
outside of daylight hours. So, if it has to be dark in there completely when it's supposed to be dark. So, if your lights are turned off for your dark period and there's still light in the room, then you're more than likely going to end up with hermaphrodites. So, if, like, for instance, in the summertime right now, um, if you have a window, then you're going to end up with light coming into the room when it's supposed to be dark at some point, because there's more light than 12 hours a day, which is why they veg outside. So that would be the only reason I could think of that you would absolutely have to cover up those windows and stuff to make sure that you don't have any light leaks.
Absolutely. So okay, it says thanks, love watching your videos. And someone else asked, they're curious if the Kita Life nutrients are safe to use with fish. So the ones that are safe to use with them are the Kita Kelp, the Kita Silica, the Root Life Microbes, the Grower's Magic, the Molasses Magic, the Phos Boost, the Kita Foliar, the Kita Uptake, and the Root Life Fungi. Um, and yeah, so that'll be really great. Hoping um, hoping Tate will be on here, and we got something we're gonna talk about with him when he gets on. Should be pretty cool. We also are going to talk about boron today. Boron's very important for your plants. It helps a lot with uh, different parts of flower formation and many different things that are important for flower. In aquaponics, you want to about ideally zero point 0.3 parts per million to zero point 0.5 parts per million. You can go as high as 1 part per million without having much of an issue. Um, and the best ways to dose that are with borax or sodium borate or boric acid. Both of those are, do perfectly fine for dosing with those. Um, Borax is really, really easy. You can get that at any Walmart or other kind of store. I used to regularly buy it around the corner at a box store for doing taxidermy and stuff. So it's also a great thing you can spread around your greenhouse if you need insect control. If you have ants, especially, or roaches, or any kind of bugs that are crawling around the floor of your greenhouse, you can sprinkle borax around all around, and then the insects crawl across. They clean themselves, they eat it, and they die. Um, and it works extremely well. It's real safe. I use it a lot in the pet industry. It won't harm your kid, won't harm your dog, won't harm your cat, won't harm your snake, won't harm your fish, won't harm the plants. It's pretty safe. And yeah, so that's what I had for boron for this week. What other questions do we have here for this week? We have you had a topic you
What
wanted
do
to
you
bring
think
up, and
about
then
my catfish randomly breeding? And I
oh
went and
yeah,
read a little bit about it, and it seems like they're supposed to be a little bit more selective than that.
yeah, that was pretty strange. You want to talk about that?
I was hoping you could talk about it because I don't know anything about it.
Oh well, do you want to tell them what happened, and then we can talk?
Yeah, well, I mentioned it a little bit ago. Was that I basically went out to check on the outdoor system, and the pump wasn't putting out very much water. I could tell just by walking up to it, and it was just barely trickling out. And so normally, what happens is there's something stuck in the pump or something like that. And so a lot of times, what I'll do is I'll just unplug the pump, and whatever is stuck in it gets pushed out by the water pressure, and then I just plug it back in, and it's good to go again. Well, this time that didn't work, and so I had to pull up the pump to find out what it was, and I pulled it up, and I found a big white sack of fish eggs that was all stuck in the pump. And then I looked around the tank, and there was like two other globs of eggs. So I fished those out and put them in a separate tank with an air stone, and they're in the garage now. Just filled it up with water from the tank that they were in, and I just have a little 10-gallon tank. And so that that's just pretty much the entirety of it. I didn't really have any idea that. I mean, obviously, I knew fish would breed, but I thought that it would require, specific conditions, I suppose.
Yeah, sometimes if we just drop the temperature and bring the temperature back up, a lot of the North American fish especially will breed just kind of on their own. Koi and goldfish aren't North native, but they're native to this latitude, so it's all the same to them. The catfish or the channel cats are from around here, so they'll definitely breed out if you get a temperature change. Now, especially if you're taking real good care of them and all, that's definitely a possibility. That they could do that for sure. I was trying to figure out, I'm pretty sure it's the catfish, but usually they lay a few thousand eggs. Did you notice any kind of swelling on them or anything like that? Or
I didn't. No. I've been checking the tank though, because I'm a little paranoid now that there's going to be a bunch more of them in there. Because I read the same thing, and there's a large number of eggs in there, but I'm not sure, or that we fished out of it. But there's definitely not like 10,000 or whatever, like what I was reading. So, I would say there's probably, at least a few hundred, but probably not more than 400.
so did you see that this week Microsoft signed a deal to start partnering up with a cannabis software company that does cannabis software tracking and all that? So that was
No,
pretty
I did.
interesting.
Yeah.
That makes you wonder about what's going to happen with the rescheduling coming up. I know there's a bunch of rumors, people are getting their pennies in a bunch over the rescheduling rumors about it possibly going to Schedule 2, which could have some pretty enormous implications for the market because that would move it to a medical product and could have some pretty negative impacts on the industry.
Yeah, there seems to be a pretty general consensus that it will not be good, basically.
Yeah, yeah, that would be bad because it would move it into the pharmaceutical realm, and then we'll see what happens after that, and see if they don't try to cash grab it and force out everyone that's currently in the market, which is, I mean, that would pretty much just be like declaring war on everyone that's fought hard to get it to the point where it is. That would just get really ugly really quickly. Not to mention the amount of money that would change hands pretty quickly. It would be pretty ludicrous. So we'll see what happens if what it ends up being rescheduled to, if it's Schedule 2 or Schedule 3, or it needs to be descheduled completely, to be honest with you. But if they're going to do it, it should be Schedule 4, if anything.
Well, I mean, if, yeah, if anything, but where is it at right now? So I guess my expectations are that they will fuck it up. That's my like.
Yeah, that's true. Who knows?
That's
They might just
maybe I'm
schedule
jaded.
one and act like retards again. We'll see. Or idiots, or whatever you want to call them. Uneducated morons.
I want to believe, but then again, we also are limited to 10 milligram edibles in Oregon for patients
What?
included. Like why would I
That's
think they would base
awful.
anything off of actual data or information or results or documented cases or anything else? Like I don't know. I'm sure I sound like a cynic, but I suppose I am.
Yeah, we've just seen the same shit over and over again. Just gets annoying. Um,
For sure.
Uruguay, its first legal harvest. Um, the first two big national companies did. So that's kind of cool. Sorry, we were a little. We're supposed to be originally with Tate at the moment, so we're trying to fill out a little bit of time. Trying to fill out a little bit of time in the meantime until he gets here. He just had a little bit of an emergency. Seems to happen a lot on our show. There's random stuff going up. Um, so they're still trying to get enough signatures for the cannabis pot club stuff for Denver. Should be on the ballot, but I think it's the Springs. They're looking for some more signatures. Um, as well as Denver, they're still looking for a few more signatures. So if you guys are in Denver, the Colorado Springs, get out there and sign that petition, or if you're in the area, go sign it. Help them get that passed. There's no reason why we can't turn Denver into something that resembles Amsterdam or just Colorado. It'll bring a whole bunch more tourist money and a whole bunch more, you know, income into this and jobs for people because right now the housing market's pretty insane and we need some more. We got to bring some more money into the city so people can afford all that. So,
Yeah, the real estate here has gone insane, like
oh, you don't
crazy.
even know. In 5 years, the rent's doubled.
Oh yeah, yeah. I would say that it's at least like 35% increase on anything that has land. And then since the restrictions have come out in Jackson County, anything that is zone residential value has gone way down, and anything that is EFU has gone way up. So just because obviously you're restricted on how much you can grow on anything that's rural residential, and you're not on anything that's EFU or industrial or any of those things. So there's a big difference in the discrepancy in price just based on where it's zoned. If you have two houses that are basically the same, and one is zone residential and another one is zone EFU, then it's going to be easily 30 to 40% more just because you can grow 30 to 40% more plants. So it just, it's math and it makes sense. But I feel like that's a big part of what they want to manipulate, is the property values. So obviously, I'm going to go ahead and say that they probably have a lot of friends on the council that have EFU zone land out there. That's my guess.
Yeah, for sure. Trying to find. There's another one. Oh, here it is. So they did a study, a 2-year study on how cannabis affects plaque buildup in relation to both seizures, like strokes and stuff, and heart disease. And they found that
Hmm.
cannabis users had a much lower rate of plaque buildup. So we're gonna eat all that butter. Definitely smoke your weed.
Nice. They go hand in hand too. Actually, you can just take your
Right?
wheat, put it right in the butter.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah. It's a double in one. I have to feel so bad about those pot cookies no more. You know.
It's true.
There was a 45-year-old man found dead in the UK after being electrocuted in his grow. Hey, let's talk about that. That's a great topic. So, you should never, ever, 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 ever put outlets or power cords or extension cords on the ground in your grow, um, or you'll end
Even
up
if
like
it's
that
outside,
guy.
actually,
Even
even
if it's
more so if
outside.
it's outside.
Yeah. Always put them up on a brick or up on a cinder block and tape them up. Just get them off the ground because sooner or later you're gonna have a leak. Something's gonna spill. Something's gonna do this. Something's gonna do that, and you're gonna have to account for it. And it's gonna screw your stuff up. So you don't want to do that, and you want to make sure that you're having you know.
I'll take a video of what I did in the garage, um, out there, because I actually set it up so that I have a cord that hangs down, that's like I guess like a surge protector, power strip kind of thing, so that if for whatever reason, like something fell or whatever else, the cord isn't long enough to be able to still reach the floor or the tank or anything really that can be wet. So if it, for whatever reason, fall down or got pulled down, it would just unplug and come out of the plug that's in the ceiling. So it's not physically possible for the electricity to get to the bottom. So I'll take a video so it makes more sense. It's probably harder to explain than
Uh,
just show.
that's cool. I'll have to show you guys too what I did for my grow. I have GFIs in my grow, and then I have there's a small sub panel that has breakers for all the different sets of 3 or 4 outlets, and then I have what's it called? Another breaker upstairs that goes to the main breaker that I can shut the whole thing off and on. So it's pretty much got triple redundancy. So the chances of all of those failing, if one after the other, is pretty much impossible.
Makes sense. It's a good idea.
Yeah, it makes it real safe. But I also have all my ballasts, all my anything that's electrical is up at least up on a cinder block, on a railroad tie, or something else that's just big underneath the grow beds that just keeps them from getting wet or anything like that.
Right.
Also keeps them, if they're up on a cinder block and they're over concrete, they can't, even if it smolders or catches fire, it's not going to catch anything else in the room on fire, even in a worst case scenario.
I put on for my outside one, I just drilled a couple holes in a tote and put the fed it through there, put the lid on, and then put it on some landscaping bricks so it sits up off the top and it doesn't ever get wet in there, and it seems to work really well. So for outside, I just some way to cover it up and make sure you're not just leaving it sitting on the ground. Like it was especially a concern for me because my kids play out there all the time. So you got, for whatever reason, get a puddle of water on the ground and they run up to get the hose and it's just going to be sitting there live. So I make sure you take precautions for that kind of stuff, especially if you have pets. My dog obviously could go up to get a drink and zap itself. So just be cautious, especially outside. Sometimes it's can be easy to not be as concerned with stuff like that. When you're working outside, but stuff floods outside too. So
I
be aware.
just wanted to say at the moment, it looks like, and I know this is kind of not super related to our American homies, but we have gotten 1 or 2 people writing us from the UK, some UK growers. Man, looks like you guys might be leaving the EU. That could really screw up your ability to get growing supplies. So I feel bad for you. Yeah, forget all
Yeah,
the politics. I feel bad for the growers.
that's right.
Always
I
gotta
don't
look
feel
out
bad
for
for
them.
politicians ever.
But yeah, so hopefully we'll actually be out in Humboldt here in the next month or so before we go back to Jamaica. Um, when we go back to Jamaica, it's going to be construction time, so we'll have a bunch of stuff. Maybe we can do some live episodes from the construction site and everything. It'll be pretty dope. And out in Humboldt, we have a project that we'll be able to tell you guys a little bit more about soon. But we have a nutrient line we've been working on that will be put out here soon. That's aquaponics safe, um, along with a bunch of other stuff. In fact, we were going to talk about that. I'll just get to it now at the moment with Tate from Keto Life. He's got a bunch of really awesome products that we used a lot back when I worked at Aquaponics Source. They've been up on Aquaponics Source's website for over 2 years. There's a ton of cool people that have used them in their aquaponics systems without any problem at all, as long as you follow dosing directions for the adjustment for it, and avoid the ones that are high in nitrogen. But we're going to be working with them to bring up this aquaponic safe nutrient just designed just for cannabis, all mineral based, fish safe. Even if you want to dose it directly into the system, you can. It works better in a dual root zone type setup, but there's no problem at all with it getting into the water or anything like that. Um, as well as a mineral-based hydro line if you want to run the system in the beginning before you put fish in it, or you just decide you don't, it's too cold or whatever, and you can't quite run the fish in the winter, or this, that, or the other reason that you can't for the time being. It'll be a nice, or nice mineral-based option for you. But we haven't had a chance to I don't have any more details on that yet, but it'll be available soon. We've been actually giving out some test batches back um, with Atria before, of some of the formula. Um, and we've actually had some feedback on some of the people that we've sent it out to from the show. Any of you guys that have received it from the show, or and all, and have won it, if you guys are listening to this episode, feel free to chime in and tell us what your feedback is and all. Um, and Yeah, so it'll be real exciting. But Yeah, they have a bunch of different cool stuff. Earlier I mentioned about which of the products are really good. The best one, honestly, that they have uh, uh, for aquaponic stuff is the key to silica, which is just a silica, nice fish safe silica, but also a micronutrient booster. So that helps a lot with color and a bunch of different things. It has a wide range of micronutrients in it, and it's very very good for that kind of stuff. As far as just a general silica plus micronutrient, it's pretty much the best fish safe one that's on the market. I don't really think there's anything else even close to like it that I've seen out there. Certainly nothing that I tested back current company or working at the aquaponics stores for sure. So
Speaking of nutrients, what's up with your magic blue solution?
we're still working with that. I can send you a test batch here. We're brewing up a whole new big test batch to send out to people, and get some more feedback on. Obviously, there's EPA registration and a whole bunch of other crap that has to be done temporary, before it can go to sale. But Yeah, that's coming along. We've been doing some tests and some feedback. We're gonna have feedback here on a full run versus a full run without it. Same nutrients with two different nutrient types here shortly. So
Nice.
yeah, I've been doing a bunch of cool stuff, talking about a bunch of cool stuff. One of them, some cool projects that I can't quite talk to you guys about yet, fortunately. But yeah, we'll be out in Humboldt, post some videos, some aquaponic and non-aquaponic systems and plants out in Humboldt, and that'll be really really awesome. Um, Definitely go and check out keylifegardens.com if you haven't already. I also know that True Aquaponics is going to be carrying the nutrient line as well, and they were on the show last week, so I want to shout out to them as well and thank them for that. Um, yeah, so we also do, I guess since we're doing website shout outs, also throw in realgrowers.com, and thedudegrows.com for hosting us and letting us have a bunch of blogs up there now. If you guys haven't checked it out, go over and check that out at Dude Grows under aquaponics. They have a bunch of really cool. I know Vlad's been posting a bunch of really cool aquaponic articles on there. Who's another guy that we'll get on the show. We were hoping to get him on this week, and then he wasn't able to last minute, so we had right before I was going to post, so that we had Tate, and then he had an emergency. So it's kind of funny, but he'll be on the show here soon at some point. But he's I forget how I got onto that topic in the beginning, but Vlad's been posting a bunch of real good articles on there about aquaponics. If you're looking to learn more about microbes or lighting or some other cool things specifically in regards to aquaponic cannabis, he's even aquaponic plants, even non-cannabis stuff. But in relation to flowering, fruiting, stuff that's relevant to cannabis, he posted a bunch of really cool stuff over there. So definitely check that out.
Cool. Yeah, I like the Do Grow site. It's
Yeah,
pretty informative.
let me text Tate and see if he's going to be able to make it in time or not. apologize to everyone on the waiting part. But yeah, they have a bunch of really cool. I guess we'll talk about them for a little bit longer for a minute. They have a whole bunch of really cool mineral based and fulvic acid based nutrients that work really well with fish. You don't really have to worry too much about it. We'll have dosing charts and all that up here in the next couple of days for fish and all. So that'll be pretty neat. I'm doing a little consulting, full disclosure, for them for doing the dosing and some of the stuff for that, and helping them out on some other projects and helping them get this aquaponic nutrient line up. So you know, just so no one thinks I'm being sneaky about it or anything. But yeah, I don't. Yeah, they're helping us bring this aquaponic nutrient that will be hopefully changing up a lot of things for all the general fruiting flowering production in both cannabis and non-cannabis for aquaponics, and offer a bunch of other solutions for some other things if you're looking to boost especially flavor and some other things in your plants. All right. Sorry, I'm trying to think of. Oh, so what do you have any other? You had another question. I forget who it was. And I was trying to find it in my email. The guy asked if we could go talk more, or if you could talk more about how you, maybe like the process of how you make your teas or your ferments that you're currently making.
Sure. So for me, I have basically I start pretty much everything with a bokashi bucket in the kitchen. So everything that I put in there would be like banana peels, corn husks, you know, nectarine pits, you know, just a wide variety of scraps that otherwise just throw away. And it just goes in a bucket with a lid that I fill about halfway with water. And then I put in bokashi and just let it soak in there until the bucket gets full. Essentially, I just keep adding stuff to it till it gets full, and that's kind of like a pre-soak before it goes to the worm bin. So on the front porch, I have the worm bin, so I pour all that that same stuff, the water, everything, in there. Then I refill it halfway up, and I re-inoculate it with the bokashi, and put it back in the kitchen, and then stir the stuff in for the worms. Add another layer over the top of it, and give them a good dosing of water. And that's how that water runs through and down out the bottom. And that's how essentially I get my worm juice, which I can either use as a concentrate. I can mix it 50-50 and aerate it for a tea. I can add it to an anaerobic ferment. If I want to do like labs, for instance, you don't aerate those, or I don't. Some people do. I don't
Yeah.
think you should.
So if
So
you
for
do
an
aerate,
anaerobic fermentation.
yeah, yeah, do an anaerobic fermentation. You can actually do that in if it's fully recirculating and you're just pumping the air from the chamber back in through the bottom, you can actually churn it up and still keep it anaerobic, and it'll actually grow even quicker. But it is, again, you have to have like the right kind of setup, and it can be kind of pricey and a little difficult to work with.
Right. So mine, I just do my anaerobic fermentations in a 55-gallon drum, and I essentially use it like a tea bag, and I'll soak anything from like, you know, just like discount fruit. If I find some at the store, like a lot of times they'll have you know, like bags of apples that are like, you know, 80% off because they're mostly rotten. So pretty much any fruit for the most part. You know, a lot of bananas, apples. My family has orchards and they have apples and pears and things like that. So sometimes I'll just scoop up some stuff when I'm over there and bring it back over to add to my fermentations. So, and then that's pretty much it. I can add the concentrate. I've added it to in various different ways. I've added it just directly into the sump tank. I've added it into the beds. I've added it into the fish tank. And none of them really seem to be any different, if I'm being really honest. So now I just basically pour it in the media bed for the most part, unless I want to do a foliar spray. Then I'll aerate it for about 24 hours with some other stuff that I like to put in it, like what is it? Azomite, I think it's called, right? Mineral dust, essentially.
Yep.
So I like to add that in, and yeah, that's been pretty much my routine. There's not really much more besides that. And I have a couple of people, like, I guess it's one thing I talked about. I had somebody who was just in a group, a local growers group here, and his plant was not looking great at all, and he's a nutrient grower. He was, basically feeding like Nectar of the Gods or, Roots Organic or something like that. I can't remember now. And essentially, he couldn't figure out what was going on with his plant. I was like, hey, you can come over and pick up some of this concentrate and throw it on there. And it seems to be working for him. It's, he did that yesterday, and it's already looking way better than it was before. And so trying to get encourage people that are, especially if you're having issues with the way that you're growing and you're looking to make a change, to look at least look at some of the more organic growing options, because they're usually more forgiving and easier to do. So even if you can't build an aquaponics system right now, you can get some real basic soil amendments that will, give you a better a microbial profile at all, and help break down probably the salts from synthetic fertilizers that are already in your soil. And you can transition without building an aquaponics system right away, or getting a worm bin right away, or feel like you have to have all that stuff in place in order to do that. And even a lot of times you can get, you can buy castings at a local grow shop. You can buy them at a local farmers market here. We have a couple of places that show up at the farmers market and bring their castings and worms and teas and stuff that are already brewed and ready to go. It's really not that much different than a bottle that you pour in. It's really just opening a different bottle and pouring it in and mixing it up before you feed. It's just worm tea, for instance. So or other amendments that you can, even dry amendments that you can mix into that same tea and be able to do some good. And so he's had some good success with that. And I guess, in the interest of just throwing some of that stuff out there to try and nudge people towards growing more organically instead of, using, salt-based fertilizers, synthetic fertilizers.
So John Resnick says in chat here, he had a question about where this kelp is sourced, and I don't actually know 100%. I know it comes from the West Coast, so I'm assuming it's the Pacific, because that would be a little silly for them to ship it there and then ship it back. So, but I will find out for sure. He says, yeah, I'm cycling 3 foliar programs. One of them is Key to Kelp. Another is Key to Silica. The other is Grow More's Kelp, because I know it also includes molybdenum. Almost all your kelps, so actually this is a great thing, and Vlad just posted an article on this over at Dude Grows. Most of your kelp blends, you're actually mostly adding the growth hormones and the proteins from the kelp. That's the main thing you're adding, not so much the micronutrients. So while there are trace minerals in all of those, it definitely the biggest benefit is those enzymes and those growth hormones that you're getting out of those more than anything else. This is also another good source of molybdenum is insect frass. I've never actually looked at the molybdenum content of insect frass. I'm actually pretty curious on that. I had not heard that one before.
I've used insect frass in in outdoor soil grows quite a bit. I've used it, but I don't know anything about its molybdenum content. But we talked about that, I think, what was it, last week or the week before? I forget. when you talked about molybdenum.
Yep,
Can you
molybdenum.
highlight that one?
Yeah, molybdenum was the last episode with True Aquaponics.
See, I
Uh,
remember some things.
yep, but I have never. So it says that it does contain some of it. I've never heard of it being real high. Oh, that's interesting. I'll have to look into that more. I'll definitely try to dig into that more for next week. Huh. I'll have to check that out. He says, Dude Grow Show episode 101 Insect Frass interview. So, for those that are more interested, apparently that has more information. Definitely go check it out. The grass will provide you with protozoa as well. Hmm, very cool. So, I've never heard of I've never been huge on the insect frass, but I know a lot of people really have a lot of good luck with it. Well, definitely thanks for the questions. Anybody else have any other questions? Um, Anybody else in the chat? There's a couple other people in chat here now, especially if anyone else has any other questions, or even anyone else's. If John or anyone else that's been asking questions as their questions, we'd love to hear them. Sorry, the our guest situation didn't work out quite as well today. We'll get definitely we'll get that we'll get that worked out in the future. We just had a last minute emergency, so I was hoping to have him on here and get him to talk about a bunch of this stuff. And he's got a bunch of really cool information on organic nutrient supplementation and you know what's fit. Him. I've been working with him a little bit on or a lot of it in the last couple of years on what's fish safe and some other things like that. So I wanted to get him on here and be able to talk about organic supplements because that's what he uses for all of his blends and um, he knows a lot about how a lot of that stuff affects it. So he's was hoping to be a great guest. We'll get him on a different episode, I guess, since it's looking like at least at the moment he's not back yet. So
Yeah, my kids are about to burst through the door and be louder than anything else, so probably have to wrap up pretty soon.
yeah, so I guess what we'll do is we'll wrap it up. Sorry, this episode wasn't quite up to par for what our normal episodes are, but it was a good time, and we'll hopefully get the guest situation worked out. I'm gonna try and get a. We have some future guests, so the guys from Dude Grows are going to be on the show with us here at some point in the near future, and then we'll get Tate on from Keto Life. We'll get Vlad on here, and we have some other people. Vlad's a real good friend of mine and really, really, really smart aquaponic expert in terms of microbes and nutrients and anything you could really want to know in regards to the higher end technical end. So we will definitely have some really cool guests here in the future. We're going to try and my goal in the future now is to try and always get a guest on the show or try to get a guest on as much as possible, as many times as possible, and try and get a good rotation. Maybe bring people on as a guest on a couple of times later on, but for now, trying to get people on, just to get some variety on the show. And it was really cool talking about, some different topics with each guest, and especially since with just me and Marty, we get stuck on our ways and some stuff sometimes. So it's nice to bring some other thoughts and some other viewpoints and things like that. So.
Yeah,
All right.
that sounds good.
Do you want to talk about your channel and everything?
Oh yeah, you can. Let's see. So the stuff we try to hit at the end all the time is so my channel is AP Meds on YouTube. So YouTube, I think was it /C/AP Meds, and Potent Ponics for Steve's channel. And you can find us on each other's featured channels. If you can't, as long as you find one, you should be able to find the other one on the right hand side there.
Yep.
There's a couple other ones on there as well. Definitely check out our featured growers there on the sidebar on the channel. We have the Facebook group, which is Aquaponic Cannabis Growers. You can find us in there, answering questions and sharing ideas and information on there. It's a good place to check that out. Also give a shout out to the Pro Addict Farmers Alliance group. I get a lot of information out of there, especially like the fermentations and stuff like that. that I'm just starting to get more involved in, and that's where I get a lot of my information. Is I highly recommend that you join that group and just be a fly on the wall for a little while and check out the resources in their file section because they're amazing. They have pretty much all the instructions and stuff that you need to do everything from mixing probiotic soil to making your own labs and bokashi and activating them and just all kinds of different information that's in the resource group of that page. And yeah, other than that, there's a number of aquaponics groups on Facebook just called aquaponics. We've had True Aquaponics on here before from the True Aquaponics store. They have a group called True Aquaponics. I think that's pretty much all of them. You got anything else, Steve?
You can hit me up on email if you want, potentponics@gmail.com. If you have any questions or you want to write us or ask us about products or feedback or I don't know, any kind of questions you got, we love answering them on the show. That's how we have gets us a lot of good content and help people learn about their grow and everything else. Um, no, I think that's about it. I think we mentioned everybody else we normally mention in the episode earlier, so I won't run down the websites again. But yeah, so definitely visit us on your channels and hit us up on our websites or emails or wherever you want to get in contact with us. And thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys again soon. Cheers.
Thanks a lot.